Henry and his family had lived with a lingering emptiness for 23 years. His wife, Lucy, had vanished without a trace, leaving Henry to raise their 5 children alone. Every holiday, every milestone, every quiet evening carried the weight of unanswered questions. Yet, after decades of sacrifice, Henry finally had a chance for himself, a long-overdue vacation to Lake Como, Italy. It was a place steeped in memories of happier times with Lucy, a sanctuary of sunlit waters and mountain air. But what Henry didn't know was that this trip would unravel truths long buried. Packing for the trip, Henry paused, gazing at an old photograph of Lucy and himself. Her smile, frozen in time, tugged at his heart. Could 23 years of absence be bridged in a single encounter? The taxi carried him through narrow Italian streets, the scent of flowers and local pastries bringing back fragments of past joys. Little towns hugged the lakeside, each more charming than the last. And then, amidst the nostalgia, a familiar aroma struck him, a scent so unique, so unmistakable, that it froze him in place. Apple pie. Lucy's apple pie. The recipe was a family secret, handed down through generations, and its presence here was no accident. Driven by a mix of hope and disbelief, Henry followed the scent, winding through alleyways until it led him to a small neighborhood. Open windows revealed glimpses of kitchens, laughter, and the golden glow of evening light. Then he found the source. A cabin window, steam curling from the chimney, and the unmistakable smell of Lucy's pie drifting into the streets. Heart pounding, Henry knocked on the door, unsure of what reception awaited him. Footsteps approached, slow and hesitant. The door creaked open, revealing a young woman. Henry froze. A part of him had expected Lucy, yet another part feared disappointment. The aroma of the pie enveloped him, bringing both comfort and tension. The young woman, unaware of the storm in his mind, greeted him politely. Henry, overcome with emotion, stammered, explaining how he had recognized the recipe. Her response startled him. The woman knew Lucy. She hesitated, careful not to reveal too much, but eventually offered to lead Henry to the lake where Lucy now lived. Each step toward the shore was filled with memories, anticipation, and a sense of disbelief. The lake shimmered under the Italian sun, the waters reflecting decades of longing and loss. At the edge, a tiny cabin stood, partially hidden by trees and mist. Henry's breath caught. Could this truly be Lucy? His mind raced, replaying every moment of separation, every unanswered question. As they approached, he noticed movement behind a window curtain, a figure pacing. Then the curtain shifted, and Henry's heart leapt. Eyes met his, and in that instant, 23 years of absence collapsed into one single perfect moment. Lucy. The woman he had mourned, imagined, and never ceased to hope for. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, as if compelled by decades of longing, Henry surged forward, emotions spilling over. The door opened, and he fell into her arms. The embrace was long, trembling with the weight of lost years, the grief, the relief. Words failed them both. Tears ran freely, blending sorrow and joy, disbelief and recognition. After a long moment, Lucy spoke, her voice trembling. She revealed a story Henry had never imagined. After that last December night, she had discovered she was pregnant. Fearing judgment and wanting to protect the family, she had chosen to raise the child in secrecy, far away, in the very place he now stood. The years had passed in quiet isolation, her son now grown, and her actions had remained a mystery until Henry's arrival. Shock, understanding, and a flood of emotions swept through him. Henry listened, absorbing each word, grappling with a mix of anger, relief, and the deep love that had never faded. They talked late into the evening, the cabin filled with the warmth of reunion. For the first time in decades, the missing pieces of their lives began to fit. Lucy explained every choice, every sacrifice, and Henry, despite the pain, found forgiveness. They spoke of their children, their life apart, and the years lost but not forgotten. The night ended with a tentative plan to rebuild, to reclaim what had been stolen by time and circumstance. The following morning, Henry awoke with a strange mix of anticipation and apprehension. Lucy had remained in the cabin overnight, sharing the small space with him as if no time had passed. Every glance, every gesture, felt like reconnecting with a ghost he had longed to embrace for decades. The lake outside sparkled in the early light, serene and unchanged, yet Henry felt that nothing would ever be the same again. Today, he would finally see the life Lucy had built in his absence, the child she had raised, and the truth that had remained hidden for so long. Lucy guided Henry along a narrow path toward the rear of the cabin, where the lush garden smelled faintly of the herbs and apples she had used in her pie. Henry's heart raced. Every step brought the possibility of discovering more than he was prepared for. The young woman who had initially guided him along had stayed behind, respecting the intimacy of the reunion. As they approached a small courtyard, Henry glimpsed movement. A young man, about 19 or 20, emerged from the garden. His features mirrored Henry's own strong jawline, familiar smile, and eyes that carried the same warmth Henry remembered in Lucy's. "This is him?" Henry whispered, hardly daring to speak. Lucy nodded, her eyes glistening. "Our son," she said simply. For a moment, time seemed suspended. Henry stepped forward, unsure how to bridge the gap of 23 years with words alone. The boy looked hesitant, cautious, sensing the weight of the moment. Henry knelt, opening his arms. Slowly, the young man approached, his posture stiff, but then he relaxed and embraced Henry. It was a perfect, quiet exchange, a healing of wounds that had festered in silence for decades. Henry spent the day walking through the grounds Lucy had tended, listening to stories of the boy's upbringing, the school he had attended, the life she had created alone. The more she spoke, the more Henry understood her decision. Each choice had been deliberate, designed to protect, to nurture, to shield him from scandal and distraction, while she built a stable life for their child. The complexity of her sacrifice weighed on him, bringing sorrow and admiration in equal measure. By afternoon, the trio sat by the lake. Henry asked questions about the boy's father. Lucy explained that she had never sought to replace him, that the father was a distant figure, involved only in brief, legal matters to ensure the boy's future. Henry nodded, absorbing each word, realizing that what she had done had required unimaginable courage. He felt the decades of anger, fear, and grief dissolve, replaced by a profound sense of understanding and connection. As the evening approached, Henry and Lucy walked along the lakeside side by side, the boy trailing a few steps behind. Conversations flowed easily now, laughter returning in cautious bursts. For Henry, it was a second chance, a rare opportunity to reclaim the love and family he had lost. He marveled at the resilience of Lucy, at her ability to create life and meaning despite the isolation and secrecy. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in warm hues, and Henry felt the weight of years lift, replaced by hope. That night, the family shared a meal in the cabin, the table adorned with dishes flavored with the same herbs that had led Henry to Lucy. The aroma, familiar and comforting, mingled with the joy of reunion. Stories were exchanged, tears shed, and for the first time in over 2 decades, Henry felt whole. He realized that the loss he had carried was not erased, but it had transformed into something new, a bridge to healing, connection, and future memories. In the following weeks, Henry and Lucy returned home together, their son now an active part of the household. Adjustments were inevitable, as the children had grown up with only one parent, and old routines had been ingrained. But the presence of Lucy brought a sense of completeness that had been missing for decades.